Hello, I am JJ Wiseman, and on behalf of the counselors, I would like to welcome you all here this evening. We appreciate you coming. We have a presentation from Marissa Lopez and Andrea Morales, and I think you're going to enjoy it, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to them at this time.
She may have oversold that a little bit. I don't know about enjoy, but we did compile a list of resources for you. By no means are we the experts here. We both have been in counseling for a while. We worked together a long time ago, but we're back together. So we wanted to present the information. We have resources on here for you, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask us, and we're going to have all of those at the end with all of the resources and things. So, Roy gave me this nice little clicker. What our presentation is going to cover are the different types of drugs that are like prescription, OTC, or illegal drugs. Signs of drug use you might see in youth, effects of the drug use and consequences, and resources and support. So we're going to cover mostly what we'll cover today are the biggest three that we see in the school system: alcohol, vaping, marijuana. We'll touch on some other things, but we'll cover those big three things. We'll also go through some of the risk factors for you to kind of watch for in youth or in family members, and some protective factors to help you with your students. So, maybe my clicker will start working. Roy gave me a defective clicker. On purpose, probably. So, some of the signs, as we said, we'll start with alcohol. Let me put my glasses on so I can see. Some of the signs you might see in your students might be mood changes, which include flare-ups of temper, irritability, or defensiveness. In school, we see things like attendance, low grades, or recent disciplinary actions. Rebellion against family rules. You might see their friend group change. They might start switching friend groups and not letting you meet the new friends. They end up with a sloppy attitude, nothing matters, lack of involvement in former interests, like if they want to drop out of their electives like band or athletics. Those might be signs that something's going on. You might also see a presence of alcohol in their backpack. You might start smelling something, or you notice that they're covering it up. Sometimes you'll see things being covered up with sprays like Axe or body sprays or mints, breath mints, because they're trying to cover something up. Physical or mental problems like memory lapses, poor concentration, bloodshot eyes, lack of coordination, or slurred speech. A lot of times we see with kids that you'll see an increase of things being shared on their social media about thinking, drinking is cool and those type of things. So if you see that, always monitor, that helps. And one of the things with withdrawal that a lot of people don't pay attention to, they might think a student is sick, but they might have shakiness, sweating, tremors, headaches, anxiety, irritability, and insomnia. Because while a lot of people think that alcohol helps them sleep, it actually raises your insomnia. So one of the things that's important to note is that it's a myth that alcohol isn't as harmful as other drugs. Your brain doesn't stop growing until about age 25. Drinking can affect how it develops. Plus, alcohol increases your risk for many diseases, such as cancer. It can also cause you to have accidents, get injured, and send you to the ER. So, one of the things we hear from kids, "Miss, it's just beer. It's not that big of a deal." One of the biggest things is that students and children do not understand that a standard drink are the same. 12 ounces of beer of a 5% beer has the same as an 8-ounce malt liquor, 5-ounce glass of wine, or 1.5-ounce glass of a shot of a 40% whiskey. So whenever kids are talking about that, they need to understand that these might look different, but they all have the same amount of alcohol in them. So it isn't any safer. Most people younger than 21 who drink alcohol report binge drinking, often consuming large amounts. Among high school students who binge drink, 44% consumed 8 or more drinks in a row. So one of the myths about this is, I'll just go home and sober up. I'll drink some coffee. I'll drink some caffeine. I'll take a cold shower. Only perspiration and respiration bring down the alcohol level. It takes time. It takes about 1 hour for every ounce of alcohol to leave your system. The scary thing about alcohol is it's also the easiest to access for students. They can always find it. So when looking at the negative effects of alcohol use, short-term health risks include things like, obviously, motor vehicle crashes, falls, drownings, and burns, violence that includes homicide, suicide, sexual assault, and intimate partner violence, alcohol poisoning, especially from binge drinkers, which we know younger students are more prone to do. Risky sexual behaviors, including unprotected sex or sex with multiple partners, and these behaviors can also result in unintended pregnancy or sexually transmitted diseases. Miscarriage and stillbirth or fetal alcohol syndrome among pregnant women. A lot of times if they don't know that they're pregnant, they might be drinking. Long-term health risks, high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke, liver, digestive problems, cancer of the breast, mouth, throat, esophagus, voice box, liver, colon, and rectum, weakens the immune system, increasing the chances of getting sick. Of course, learning and memory problems, including dementia and poor school performance. Mental health problems, including depression and anxiety. Social problems, including family problems, job-related problems, and unemployment. And of course, we have alcohol dependence. We have to think about this, that it does not include the list of like driving under the influence, ending up with things like accidental overdose, alcohol poisoning, as we talked about, death from drunk drivers, or riding in cars with impaired drivers, because a lot of times our kids think that it's safe. I'll turn it over to my lovely assistant now. See if it works for you.
Now we're going to look at the effects, or we're going to look at vaping. Vaping is the act of inhaling or exhaling. I'm just going to let you know is with vaping, as I was doing the research, I realized that cigarettes have been around a long, long time. And cigarettes have been around a long time, but yet now the effects are barely starting to come out. With vapes is such a new thing that we don't really know the full effects of a vape because it's so new. Vape is, if we look at vaping is an act of inhaling or exhaling aerosol or a vapor made from a liquid or dry material that is heated in an electric powdered, an electric device, and it's called an e-cigarette, electronic cigarette. This liquid can contain flavorings such as nicotine or marijuana. Dry herbs, vape devices can heat dry marijuana without combusting it. If we look at this, there's different forms of e-cigarettes or vapes as listed below. Some are large, some are small. The devices come in a variation. If we look at the devices, sometimes there's things that you look at and you're like, that's a vape. It could be a little compact. It could look like a little toy. There's different, or even a flash drive. One of the slang terms are e-cigarettes, mods, vape pens, vapes, tank systems, jewels. So whenever we think about vapes, sometimes we think, okay, this is something that's water made, right? Not all. Some of them have nicotine. Some of them have THC. And these substances are things that the students are inhaling. So it's automatically going straight into their system, into their brain. Vaping, is it safe? False. Vaping is not considered safe for teens and for young adults, especially since the adolescent brain is barely developing. And the brain is still developing and taking this substance may be harmful. Additionally, some vape devices might explode, resulting in burns and other injuries. Like I said earlier, it said, are vapes only water? No, false. Most vape devices contain a release of number of potential toxics. The aerosol, whenever they're consuming the aerosol, you don't know what type of chemicals are in it. There's a variation of chemicals that are being inhaled. So with that, it's a DNA damage is being caused. It helps you quit smoking. That's another myth. Some people say, okay, I'm not going to take a cigarette, or this is going to help me stop smoking. So they switch over to vapes. Although using e-cigarettes as a way to stop smoking may work for some adults, teens and young adults who vape are almost 4 times as likely to begin smoking traditionally because of the vapes. Teens and vaping. If we look at this data right here, this data was shown in 2018. We went from 13% up to 17%. So it has been showing that we have had an increase in students or kids, young adults, consuming or vaping. I looked into this a little bit more, and they said that the studies actually from the 2018 to current has gone up more than 30%. And the students from the age, or the children from the age of 14 have been exposed or have shown to say, hey, you know what, I have used a vape. And that was just a study that I had looked into, how young the kids were whenever they were exposed, and it said the age of 14. Some of the street names that you could hear them refer to would be like, it said 710, which is really oil in the form of numeric numbers. BHO, there's other different terms like black glass. It was just astounding whenever I was looking at the different slang terms that they would use in reference to a vape. In addition to the nicotine and flavored liquids and marijuana that could be used in a vape. The other thing about a vape is the vape is easy to access. It's easier for a student or a child to get a hold of due to the fact that you could order these online. Even though the law says that you have to be 21, you are still able to order some of these devices online.
We tried to create an account last night. We tried to order one last night whenever we were doing research because we thought, surely that's not right. It's pretty simple. You can pretty much put any kind of information in there and click that you're over 21. And
Yes.
they don't really question. So it was eye-opening for us as well.
Yes. And it was actually whenever we went in, this vape said that it was an aerosol, so it was like a flavored type. But then if you read right below, it started saying that it may contain nicotine. So even though it's saying that it's just a vape that doesn't contain nicotine, on the bottom it did specify, hey, you know what? It is a vape that's aerosol, but it may contain the nicotine. And these are the different types of vapes that we looked at. These are just some that you may see, but like I said earlier, they come in all shapes and sizes, and some even came and they look like little toys. That's
And they look like lighters, like if you notice, some of them look like highlighters, some of them look like little pins. They're small, they can hide them.
and this one looks like a little compact. Like she said, USBs, little cigarettes. E-cigarette product packages look like toys. Even sometimes they could look like food. The difficulty about vaping is sometimes you can't even smell it. It's like odorless. So you can't really say, hey, I know that my child or that student or anything like that has been vaping because it's so odorless. They even come as smart watches or even inhalers, car fobs, fidget spinners. And here's a different one. This one is a THC, and it has a little oil cartridge.
That's one way to know usually if it's THC, it's got the oil that will heat up. And so if you see one of those, that probably means that it has THC in it.
Compared to these.
No, they say that they have THC on the, yeah, I guess on the package, but not once you take them out of the package. So if
This
parents
is
don't know to look for, I figure what the
no. No, ma'am. The different mechanisms, the different uses, they could smoke it, inhale it, or oral. And also another way would be like, say for example, even lotions and oils. If we go ahead and look at this, drug zone, THC, marijuana in the law, we have to look at the campus. Possession of 2 or 4 ounces of marijuana in a drug zone free, or possession of more than 4 ounces of marijuana in any circumstance is a felony offense. In Texas, drug-free zones include public or private schools, daycare centers, private or public youth facilities, playgrounds, colleges, and universities. So we have to understand that THC is a felony. Any amount in the state of Texas is illegal. And it is we could have a severe punishment. This is
We
the,
take a lot of this. We looked at this because a lot of, kids tell us, well, it's legal in so-and-so, it's legal in Colorado, it's legal in New Mexico. And so whenever we're trying to talk to kids about that, there's only certain things still that it's legal for in a lot of places. It's legal for medical use, but then you have to have a card and you have to have the right prescription. You can't carry too much. It has to be your prescription, all of those things. However, they need to understand that it's very important to understand it's still illegal here. So possessing it, and I don't think a lot of kids understand that a drug-free zone includes all of those places. So where in Plainview can you go that's within 300 feet from one of these, right? So it mentioned a park. It does not say, it says playgrounds, so that could consider, because they are park. So that's probably where that comes
The-
from.
Including the public.
Or private schools.
Mhm.
There's private, yeah, playgrounds, so
Let's see. It
that's
is right
probably
there. The playgrounds. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, in the state of Texas,
It is.
it just carries
Mm-hmm.
for a
Yes.
gummy and things. They can charge you with a felony because it's impossible to measure that. Is from what we were reading. So
Yes.
that's why it says a single gummy can contain a state jail felony. Sorry.
And that's where it would be under the oral indigestion. They're edibles. Yes.
Because you can't measure it.
Mm-hmm.
We can measure it's 2 ounces or 4 ounces, but a gummy they can't. So a lot of them think I'll just have this gummy and it's fine.
Okay. Great questions. Now, in the vaping, earlier I had told you that whenever they vape, they don't know, whenever it's aerosol, they don't know what they're consuming. It states that there's more than 7,000 chemicals in those vapes. And some of the chemicals are still unknown, and we don't know what those impacts can be. There is no safe level of exposure to the second hand as well. So say you're not the one vaping, but there's another person, the second hand is unsafe as well. Secondhand smoke can cause heart disease, stroke, and lung cancer in people who don't smoke. Children are especially vulnerable. Especially whenever you're reading about it and you start realizing, guess what? Some of these devices look like little toys or may look like food and could be left around and a little child could grab them. Smoking is the leading cause of preventable death in the U.S. Smoking harms nearly every organ in your body. Heart and blood vessels, lung diseases, cancers, and impacts your bones, eyes, teeth, gum, and fertility.
And we did include a video later for you guys to watch because we will. Because we still have, this is a lot. We have to
Yes.
cut this down, y'all, because as we
There
were
was
getting
a lot
into
of
it, there was so
information.
much. So we did include, there's a really good video there about vaping, and we've included videos all throughout the presentation. And I do believe this presentation will be available on our site as well. But there's lots of different resources we put in here.
Now, the negative effects of vaping. The dangers of vaping include, like we said earlier, the body, the vaping in your lungs. The dangers is in the lungs and the organ damage, the breathing problems, and then the other thing, addiction, and more. People tend to think of vaping as safer than smoking, but it's not safe. Asthma. Vaping can make you more likely to get asthma and other lung conditions, lung scarring, organ damage. And we found this one, EVALI. EVALI was the e-cigarettes, the vaping products that cause injury to your lungs. Addictions, explosions, cancers, these are all the negative effects of vaping. Signs that your child may be vaping. Sweet odors, the decrease in the sense of taste, the nosebleeds, cutting back on the caffeine, the persistent coughing, the unfamiliar USB drives everywhere, or battery chargers or spare parts, the irritation of the eyes, the redness in the eyes. The negative effects of THC use. In addition to the intoxication, the flooding the brain with large amounts of THC may impact normal functions to the short or long periods of time, including like the learning, the memory, the cognitive process of critical thinking, the pleasure and the reward. THC's negative effect is also, it gets to a point that
They need that constant.
the body creates that mechanism of it's a need. I have to have this. And also now with the House Bill 114 pertaining to vaping at school or on school property, it makes that vaping is punishable by a mandatory assignment to a disciplinary alternative education program. So now there is a state law that it says House Bill 114, it's mandatory to place them in a DAP setting.
Whether it's a regular vape or a THC vape, you get more days for THC vape, obviously, and you can get expelled from school after the second or third. We weren't sure since that's not really our lane. We can counsel them, but we're not really the discipline lane. But that's where this comes from. So a lot of times they think that the school district is the ones crashing down. Y'all are being too hard. This came straight from the governor. So
Yes.
this is not from the governor, but it came straight from the House bill.
The House bill that states it's mandatory. It's a mandatory placement. Okay.
So just to kind of go back through whenever we've talked some of the signs about alcohol, we've talked some of the signs about drugs. Some of the things that you really need to look for is if your student's getting sick more and more, they're acting tired a lot, like they can't function, they can't stay awake, they can't stay up, slurred speech, nosebleeds, sore spots in or around the mouth. We see that with even vaping, even if it's regular vaping, because that heat from the vape will cause sores around the inside of their mouth. Sudden loss of weight or gain of weight, skin bruises, constant perspiration, and that could be because they're needing to go take a hit of something or to take a drink of something. And of course, seizures and vomiting that could occur if you have severe reaction to any type of drug or alcohol. The behavioral signs, we kind of talked about this with changing friend groups, but they also start having relationship problems, whether that be with their family, their friends, anyone. They have a loss of interest, especially we start seeing that at the junior high and high school level, college level. They start wanting to drop out of things. They start wanting to change topics in school, what they're studying, all of those type of things. Avoiding eye contact when you ask them what's going on. They can't look at you whenever they're doing something that they don't need to be doing. Lack of coordination or poor balance. And like I said, insomnia, we see that a lot because they're staying up, their sleep patterns are off, so then they're wanting to sleep in class, causing disciplinary issues, of course, causing grades and things to go. And cutting ties with people. It's harder for young ones, and we want to keep them engaged, and that's why I'm glad you guys are all here, because it does show that we're taking some sort of signs to get some help and things. Even if that's not why some of you are here. Some of you made sure and told me that. So one of the things we kind of wanted to give you some input on was some of the things to look for individually in their family, their school, and the community. So some of the protective factors, because we've talked a lot about the risk factors. We could go over that again, but we've talked a lot about that. You've seen that with alcohol, you've seen that with the vaping, you've seen that with marijuana. Some of the protective factors that you can help your students do. Help them to say no, learn how to say no. You know, we always told our daughter and our son, you can use us as the bad guy. My parents won't let me go. You know, we don't need 8th grade friends, right? They don't care if they like us or not. So allow your kids that opportunity to use you as the bad guy. Future college aspirations. Ask them, what do they want to do later? What do we want to be? No matter if it's going to trade school, college, training, whatever it is, they need a plan. And whenever they have a plan, it gives them something to work toward. Hanging out with a group that doesn't approve of it, that'll help. And then involvement in sports and physical activity. And goes back to whenever your kids start wanting to drop out of things, band, football, cheerleading, whatever it is, there's probably something going on that we need to ask about. With your family, it's very hard because we have parents that work, right? 2 parents working homes, and it's hard sometimes to be that person all the time. But a lot of it is, if they're seeing you do it, they're going to do it. So if you're making sure to set the good example, and not vaping, not drinking, and believe me, guys, I tell kids, we're over 21, we can buy alcohol in the state of Texas, but them seeing responsible drinking, not drinking at their age, waiting until they're old enough. Maternal affection, that was one of the things that it went back to. Higher parental monitoring of child behavior, that's a big one. Knowing where your kid's at, who they're with, what they're doing. Restricting the marijuana specific things like, hey, this isn't something we're okay with. This isn't something we're going to be doing. And then helping them to know that you trust them, but you're going to be there to guide them. At school, this is where it kind of gets hard because they need to find where they belong, that involvement. So we try to find those things that can fit their personality. What are they good at? Is it art? Is it writing? Is it theater? Something to give them a sense of belonging. We try to connect them. We try to find something that they are good at, that they want to do, that they want to be a part of. Because the more they're involved, the less likely they are to get in trouble. And then, of course, like we're doing tonight, we're taking a remedial approach. We do this in the schools, in the classrooms, and we're trying to outreach to the community. And in the community, one of the things that really helps with students is feeling a larger sense of belonging, not just in their home, not just in their school, but connecting with the community, connecting with either your church group or your youth group or outside sports. Anything that can help a student see, these are the things I want to be a part of, these are the things I want to be connected to, these are the things that I enjoy, and allowing them that freedom to do that keeps these protective factors up. So this one has been really hard because this, again, is one of the newer things that is now affecting our youth. It's fentanyl. There is a video down there later if you want to watch it. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that's 50 times more potent than morphine. One of the things that we read about it was fentanyl the size of 2 grains of salt. Think about that, how small that must be. Can actually kill someone. Now, one of the things about fentanyl, you don't know how much is in anything. So if they lace it with their joint, if they lace it with, a lot of people see it laced in Xanax, those type of drugs, you don't know if you're going to get a high-powered dose, low-powered dose, because there's no regulation of it whenever you split it up or put it on something. So one kid that might have taken a hit off of something might have been fine, and it might have killed the next kid. And we've actually saw a lot of cases whenever we were looking and doing the research where that had happened. So one thing that you should know, it's 100 times more potent than morphine, and it's responsible for 67% of all opioid-related overdoses. Y'all, 100 times more potent. It's a big deal. And our kids, it's out there now. And the kids think a lot of times, oh, it's just beer, it's just weed. But you don't know if somebody hasn't put something in there. All righty. Vanna?
Okay, so I know that we've talked about marijuana and vaping, fentanyl. Now, what about things that could be over the counter? Things that could be in your cabinet? Your medicine cabinet can also be a source of danger. We have over the counter things, Tylenol, ibuprofen, just prescriptions that were given to you. Those are things that could be in your cabinet. Tips for keeping your children safe from OTC, which is over the counter prescription and medication. Lock your meds. Take inventory. Start looking through and saying, okay, I had this many prescriptions there. I still have all of them. And sometimes even opening the container, knowing how many are in each container. Educate yourself, educate your child. Hey, you know what? Don't take medicine without my permission or without me handing you the prescription or the medicine. Set clear rules, monitor the behavior. Pass it on, share your knowledge of the impacts. Hey, if you consume this, this is the impact that you could have. Properly dispose of your old medications. What to do if your child already has a problem. There's a 1-800 number and there's a link as well. And there's the poison help 1-800 number.
And one of the things that, we're becoming more and more aware of at school is now we're getting trained on this type of thing, and we're getting trained on how to deal with a possible fentanyl overdose. Those are things we never thought we would have to deal with as counselors in schools or teachers in schools. But that's why it's important to call. We put the number on there for the poison control because sometimes you may not know what they have taken, and they can guide you if your child is having an overdose or reaction to something.
And if your child is taking a medication, always being able to tell the nurse, hey, this is the medication my child is taking, and taking that medication to the nurse on campus if they're taking a medication of some sort. That's cool.
Or say, all the things have been coming up, are they allowed to have like packaged anything?
No.
From my understanding, we've always
No.
been told to for the parent to take it to the nurse, and the
That's
nurse.
how.
And I don't even know that they would give that a prescription at school, but that was something that you could ask the nurse about. But they don't need to be carrying it around because they could get in trouble for it. Someone could say, "Oh, you gave this to my kid," because like what we've had before is a kid. I've seen this where a kid gave another girl medicine. Well, that girl was allergic to ibuprofen. So you might not know, that your friend, hey, here, take this. You don't feel good. So it's always better for them not to have anything.
Because it was never okay when I went to school.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that was still there.
We have kids, I'm sure, that do it, but it's not best practices. So one of the things that we touched on earlier, we have our Character Strong program, our Rethink Ed. Those programs were adopted last year, and we go into the classrooms, the counselors go into the classrooms, we educate as whole groups. We also do groups whenever kids need them, and we also do one-on-one if kids need them. Our mental wellness, we also have our MTSS department. They help us. They're in here tonight. They help us too. And we try very hard as a school district to address as much of it as possible, but we want to partner with parents in the community because this is something that affects the entire community. So another way that these are both straight from our website. If students know that somebody has something on them, they can always report it through the Stop It app. You can download that on the Google, I don't know what Google phone's called, the Google app, or I have had an iPhone for 50 years, y'all, so I only know Apple apps. So you can download the Stop It. Kids can report anonymously, and they can report any of those things. But especially whenever we're dealing with drugs and alcohol at school, we want to shut that down too. So, like I said, Locally, we have our school counselor. If you know something and you need help, come to one of us. Come to your school counselor. We have our MTSS department. They're actually at the end of this building. They're usually not there because they're usually on campuses working with kids as well. But usually there's someone there in the office that can help. Central Plains Centers, our local agency, they also have a drug awareness program with them. Catholic Family Charities is another program that we work a lot with. And then we can also help hook up with community resources. If you know that your student is struggling, we can help hook up local counselors to your student. Yes.
How can parents know just one place to call if they need help?
If it's at the school, you can always call central office. You can call the main number and they'll give you, you can tell them, hey, my kid is at so-and-so school, and they can transfer us. But usually you do know what, it's always best to kind of go through your campus counselor because like I said, Miss Jackson and Miss Edwards are part of our MTSS team. They're usually in our on our campuses. And so they're usually out. Like Miss Edwards is on my campus almost all day today. So the best place to start is usually with that school counselor. Because if we know, then we can help hook a parent up with either our MTSS department or an outside counselor, which they usually will help us do that. We send a referral into them and they can do that. They can help hook the family up with resources. And sometimes families don't want to tell us, you know, what's going on because obviously privacy and things. But the more people that have eyes on your kid, the better off you're going to be, because it takes a village for real with these students. So we put, at the end of this, we did put all of the things. I've got Central Plains website, Catholic Charities website. I did put our MTSS department's numbers on there. All of our information, as we said, has come from all of the major sources for drug and alcohol abuse. So anything that is on here, we've put a link to, we've put video links in there. Lots of different videos. I tried to tag the ones that I found the most helpful so that you would know where they're at. They're in here as well. And once a month we do these talks. Next month it's gratitude and its benefits. I don't know. Ms. Marchman's going to be in charge of that. So it'll be here November 14th. We're always welcome to have, we always want parent involvement. We appreciate you being here. It's a big deal to take this step out. And so if you have any questions. Yes, sir. Multi-tiered systems of support. And so they link together. What they do is they work with, these two ladies work tirelessly to work with us in the school system and the community to try to link up resources, to try to help whenever students are struggling, not just with any kind of substance abuse, with any kind of anxiety, depression. If your family has gone through any kind of divorce or just changed, death in the family, as we know that there were a lot of mental awareness being brought about as part of all of the House bill changes and things. And so these ladies work tirelessly to try to help us whenever a kid is struggling, to try to help families. And so sometimes even to the point where we might be harassing you a little bit. So, but we want to get help. So definitely we want to be able to help all of the community kids that we have.
So if you have any questions and concerns in reference to your child or a student, please reach out to the counselors on that campus. We're here to help. And if we can't have the answer, we will reach out and we will find the answer one way or another.
We'll keep working and
Yes.
try to find it and try to hook you up with the right resource if something is going on. Because sometimes we've found that, you know, we linked somebody and that didn't work out very well. So we want to know that information so we can link you up to someone else.
Yes.
And if you don't have any more questions, this should be available and you can click on everything. Is that all? Alrighty.
We want to thank you again for being here. I know some of you probably have a form that you need to have signed off on. So if that is the case for you, come up to this podium or to this area, and we'll be glad to sign off on that for you. If you haven't had a snack or a drink, or you want something additional, please help yourself to that as you leave. But once again, thank you for being here. We are glad to see you all.